There's a lot of crazy in Web3 and crypto right now. From the FTX collapse, all the bankruptcies going on, and even our favorite crypto influencers who are pumping us full of this hopium are sort of starting to abandon their regular posting schedule. You could say crypto is doing some spring cleaning, and there's almost no sector in crypto that could do with a deeper spring clean than DeFi. Well, maybe CeFi, but that's another video. Because DeFi is one of the biggest sectors in crypto and Web3, and of course it's renowned for its Ponzonomics. You know those classic pyramid-shaped structured businesses where the founders and early adopters make a bunch of money and everyone else has their money stolen away from them while being sold the dreams of riches. But the DeFi critics are wrong. Not about DeFi 1 or DeFi 2, they're 100% right. These are almost entirely Ponzi schemes. But they are 100% wrong about DeFi 3.0 because we are currently on the edge of a financial revolution, one that mankind has never ever seen before. And if you do know what you're looking for, you absolutely can make generational wealth. So let me explain to you why DeFi is so important, how you can participate, and how the next wave of DeFi projects will be a Cambrian explosion of opportunities and innovation. All I ask in return is you hit that like button below, put on your DeFi hat, and let's jump in. So DeFi projects are an absolute dumpster fire with a passion of burning through people's life saving. But if we look back at technological innovations, we've seen this pattern many times before. For example, electricity in your home was first used in 1880, and it had the humble goal of replacing the candle. But unfortunately for some wealthy New Yorkers who adopted this technology really early, they died of electrocution or got their house burnt down with this new tech. And this all looked terrible at the time, but what they couldn't foresee is that candles would just be the first thing that would be replaced. And this technological breakthrough of electricity would go on to lead to the iPhone, electric cars, and air conditioning, a phoenix that rises from these ashes. We of course saw this exact same pattern with the internet. A humble vision in the 60s to have two computers sharing data between them has now led to us ordering sushi, finding a wife, and of course watching endless adorable cat videos. But of course this technology as well had its adolescent phase called the dot-com bubble. This is where a lot of people lost a lot of money and the internet was classed as a fad that is now over. Well, DeFi started with a beautiful solution to cut out the middlemen and the banks and just have our financial system be operating between us. But it's now going through its adolescent phase of the dot-com bubble, or the I'll burn your house down and electrocute you. But what's going to emerge next in DeFi 3.0 is that phoenix from those ashes. One that'll revolutionize how you personally and society as a whole will operate. And yes, of course, there's going to be incredible financial opportunities for the innovators and the early adopters, as the keys to the largest sector in the world get passed on to the new innovators. So why DeFi and what are these opportunities? Well, to know why DeFi is going to be so huge, you must first understand how terrible the alternatives are. And that obviously is centralized finance. The financial system we currently use with a centralized authority, such as governments or banks, or even private companies, who control the flow of our money. They can print more of it, they can stop you from borrowing it, or freeze your assets without notice. The inevitable problems of this sort of control have basically been speedrun on the blockchain. You have centralized institutions like Celsius, BlockFi, FTX, and Genesis, who have all mismanaged customer funds or lied to their customers directly. So what is it about DeFi that makes it better? Well, firstly, you get a much higher return on your money because you're cutting out the middlemen such as banks and overpriced brokerage fees. And if that's not enough alone, you also retain control over your own money because it's stored in its own smart contract and you alone hold the private keys to access it. Because in DeFi you can be anonymous or pseudonymous, you also have your loans have to be over collateralized, meaning there's no fractional reserve banking, which seems to always end up doing something like this. DeFi also have something called automated market makers, which means that you can instantly buy and sell different tokens without waiting for a counterparty to actually have to buy and sell these trades that you want to make. DeFi is also non-bias. Anyone can use DeFi as they are run on code and not by people. So there's no prejudice, biases, or censorship. Unlike PayPal's insane proposal to fine you $2,500 out of your account for any misinformation that you spread on social media. Also in DeFi, the entire process is transparent and verifiable, and therefore it's way more resistant to shady corruption like we saw with FTX borrowing $10 billion from one private company to another. And lastly, the ease of use. If you had $10 million and you wanted to send that from stablecoins all the way across the world to another person's wallet, you can do it in mere seconds and for about $5. And in the traditional finance world, you have to wait for bank approvals, you have to hope they don't put a temporary hold on it, you have to pay about $6,000 and probably end up waiting about 6 days for that money to actually get moved. It's this list of features and so many more that we don't have time to dig into in this specific video that will be the keys that open the door to an incredible Cambrian explosion of innovation. Just like the apps that we've built on top of electricity since it was first conceived just to give us light. These apps are things like your toaster, or your kettle, or your MacBook Pro, or even a Tesla. Now this movement normally prompts a question that I hear a lot, and it's a very fair question for a beginner to ask. Why do we need crypto and our own tokens for this? Why can't we just set up these parameters for something like the US dollar? Well, it's because it would remove a revolutionary input, one that could have never been accounted for in microeconomics until now. And this input is the key to opening up new opportunity. Let me explain. So mechanism design is a subset of microeconomics, which is basically the inverse of game theory. Game theory analyzes the outcomes of actions that you take in a game, where mechanism design starts with the ideal outcome that you want and reverse engineers a game that's going to give you that outcome as a result. A great example of this is the Vicaray auction, where the goal is to have individuals in an auction bid what they truthfully think the item is worth and not play any mind games against the other bidders. The mechanism they designed to get this ideal outcome is called the Vicaray auction, which was engineered to have the winner, which is the person who submitted the highest bid, win the item, but only have to pay the second highest bid's price for it. But historically, the parameters of this mechanism have only included that you use US dollars or whatever it is your local currency is. But thanks to this crypto, mechanism designers now have a revolutionary input, access to a native currency. And how well can you align incentives and reach desired outcomes in your game when you have the opportunity to print new coins, burn tokens, or reallocate them to realign incentives? This is a fascinating question that has no comparison pre-blockchain era. If you apply this back to the Vicaray auction, how could you improve the system to incentivize honest valuations when you get the opportunity to print money, burn money, or reallocate it? So in DeFi 3.0, all financial systems that you currently know will eventually come decentralized. Derivatives, futures, leverage, bonds, and even synthetic stocks. But this is only the beginning, because when technology first arrives, we first replicate what we already know. Think about the first iPhone and how it had a bookshelf on the iPhone. But once we've replicated what we've already got, that's where the real innovation starts. And now the iPhone has Audible, podcasts, and even things like YouTube. Features that you just can't comprehend at the start of a new innovation. And if you want to see the opportunities as they come up, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. And if you feel pulled to Web3 but don't know where to start, I highly recommend checking out our Patreon. I'll link it up in the description below.